Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Well, now we're going to tackle the handlebars for this 89 Softail, and we've got quite a bit to do on them, so it's going to be a pretty involved process. Assuming this all goes to plan, shouldn't have said that, of course. From there, we're going to move on to finishing up this wire loom and clean that up, and if time allows, we might even start on the wheel bearings on this bike and get those things cleaned up and repacked. But first, let's just jump on these bars and see if we can get it all done. Here's a look at the flavor of bars we decided to go with, leaning against our super fancy block wall. Yes, they're covered in foam for now, but it will be removed as we work on them. I'm just being a little OCD and trying to keep them protected for now. But these are KST custom bars. They're called straight jacket bars. They're 14-inch and they are polished stainless, which is super cool. So there's three main reasons why I went with these bars. Number one, just wanted to do a project with ape hangers, so here we are. Number two, KST Customs is actually US made in Georgia, which is super cool. I've used KST custom bars on projects before. I helped somebody do a bar swap on a bagger. They were super awesome. Go check those guys out if you're in the market for bars. They make stuff for just about everything, so super cool stuff. And number three, and the absolute main reason why I went with these bars is because I am dirt cheap, and these were only 45 bucks through J&P Cycles, so you can't beat that. So as far as cables and lines and all that kind of stuff goes, I've already got these cables. These are the throttle idle cables. I'm hoping, I say that with all seriousness, I'm hoping these work good because I ordered these blindly because we needed some cables at the very start. As far as the clutch cable goes, it's actually on order now. It should be here anytime. And then for the brake line, we won't be doing the brake line in this episode because I need the front wheel and the caliper and all that on to bleed it. But that stuff is on the way, and that's something we will do. We will do a little bit later. For risers going with these, I think they're like 1.5 inches, but these are actually OEM factory risers, and they appear to be off of a newer model bike just because of how fat the bottom part is right here, but they mount up just fine. These do have some bad spots on them, if I can find it, like there in the chrome, but you know what? These are factory OEM, and I got these suckers for like 30 bucks on eBay, so you can't beat that. And of course, they're going to be so low down on the top of the triple tree anyway, you're not going to really see that stuff. Going with solid mount riser bushings on these guys. So if you've never used these before, the reason you would want to run them is, this is what came off the bike. These are actually, I think, poly. These are not the normal rubber mount that you can get from the factory. Even these poly bushings right here can move a little because you figure you've got this bolt going up through. It's screwing into the bottom of your riser just like that. And of course, no matter how much you tighten it, you're still going to have a little movement from this. This is to help with vibration. Well, when you get these super tall bars like this, they move quite a bit. So this helps to lock them down. The problem is vibration. So that's just going to be one of the products of going with these. But to me, it never really bothered me going down the road. Picked up these cool grips, lowbrow customs, of course. And these, I didn't even realize it after ordering. These are actually US made as well. And I think they were like maybe $15, $17. But wanted to go with something different than the regular old, like black and chrome and stuff like that. I think this look will go, I think this will go pretty neat on this bike. The last thing we picked up, everybody's favorite, wiring time. That's right. So we are going to have to extend the switch housing, the wires for that. And we're also going to be running these wires inside of these bars internal. Now the problem is these bars are not drilled for internal wiring. So with that being said, we're going to have to drill these on our own, both up here on both sides as well as at the bottom. Now, I did call the fine folks at KST Customs and chatted with them, and they said you are perfectly fine to drill these bars, so that is exactly what we're going to do. So first, I want to get these switch housings off of this bike, which means I need to mess with this wiring. I want to get these on the bars to sort of mock it up a little bit just to triple check I'm drilling in the right spot. Drilling for bars is pretty self-explanatory as far as the location goes. If you've ever dealt with internally drilled bars before, you kind of know where they are. Now on these right here, and this bit of fun, a lot of people, and I've done this on newer bikes, they'll go in and depin these. You can actually, honestly don't know if you can depin these old ones from 89, but on newer ones I have depinned them. You can use that to extend the wires. On this one, I'm not going to mess with them just because this stuff is so old. I don't want to snap anything or break anything. But let's talk about this for a second. So these little butt connectors. Now, I have talked about these before in other episodes, and I'm going to do it again just because I cannot stand them. So let me show you some examples of why. So these were not disconnected before, like this wire right here, these two green ones, and there's another red one in here. I noticed this one was disconnected just from me messing with this bike in the garage. And this actually had two butt connectors in the middle at one point. I pulled on the other one and it just literally came off. And then this guy over here, this little red one that's down here, I just lightly tugged on that one and it came off. So you can run butt connectors if you want, you're just warned this kind of stuff can happen. Now this side right here is actually the right side, so it's got the kill switch, on-off switch, and the start button. Could you imagine backing your bike into a place, you just put new bars on it, maybe you tweaked your bars to the left or right a lot to get into a spot, and you come back out, nothing works. And all it is you got one little connection right here that came loose. So that would be an absolute major headache, and you would be towing that bike home. Now that I'm done with my PSA for the moment, oh, look at this one too. This one's actually hanging. This wire's, I wonder if I could just pull that out. Yep, look at that. It just snapped right out. So, you know, this is just another example. These things they just get bad over time. Maybe they make some butt connectors that are better now. I don't know. So what I'm going to do is unfortunately, these are actually color coordinated, which is good, but I'm unfortunately going to have to just cut these. And then I will label all these as one loom to make sure I know what's the right side and left side. It's orange on orange. Of course, everything else has already come off. And black one there. That should do it for that. And now this guy, is it this one? I think it is. There, now we can get this guy out. Well, if I can get that out of here, the butt connectors are getting hung up on everything. Oh boy. Come on. Well, if I can get that out of here. Man, there's so many mystery connectors on this thing. And for these guys here, make sure that they're all color matched, which is helpful. At least somebody got that right. Green on green, black on black, yellow, white, orange. Green. Oh, and this one's got, these have some extra mystery tape up here. So my guess is we've got butt connectors and some kind of mystery connection. Terrific. What's really funny is the extended wire harness that I bought, that I literally just showed you fine folks, came with a pack of butt connectors. So, you know, there's that. So if you buy these wires and they come with butt connectors, that doesn't mean you got to use them, folks. Just say no. And then for resoldering this is going to be very tight and very difficult. You can actually unplug these, so it gives me a little more space. But these are going to have to be soldered up here on the bike. I've done that before. It's not the easiest in the world, but it can be done. And worst case, if you ended up messing this up, you could hardwire them through there. It's always a way around it. We got our clutch side mocked up here just to kind of validate where I wanted to drill for these. So on these bars, just like most of these bars, there are dimples in here. And what the dimples do is they allow you to mount your switch housing and then, of course, either your clutch or your master cylinder on the outside of it. And then these wires, this wire loom kind of goes underneath it. What it does is it allows it to exit out here. And then you can just, you know, zip tie it on your bars or whatever. But we're not going to do that. We're going to run them internal. So where we'll be drilling is just inside this dimple, going in at about a 45-degree angle. If you look here with our grip mocked up, you can see we've still got about a good ½ an inch out here that it's got to go in. So that means when it's all said and done, this will go in through the hole just inside this dimple, and then this whole unit will just slide down a little bit and cover it up. Even if you saw a tiny amount of the wires down underneath here, meaning part of this sleeve, it's not that big of a deal because you're not, I mean, unless you just stand on your head or something like that, you're not going to get up underneath there and see that. One little tip I do want to explain on these, this is something that has bitten me before and it's extremely annoying whenever it happens. So a lot of folks, what they'll do is they'll go, let's say you have your bars apart or you put new bars on and you got all this stuff off, you got new grips, everything looks really cool. And you go to mount these, you go ahead and just kind of put these on the bars and they're, you know, they're just loosely mounted so you can move them around and all that. And then you go to putting your grip on and all that stuff and you realize, oh, well, I put these on, but they're way down here. So I need to slide them down, you know, to meet my grip. Makes sense. The problem is if you put these on at first and you slide them down too far, there's a really good chance when you go back, you're going to expose a lot of nasty scratches up here. I actually did that on some bars I painted black. They were actually satin black. And you might as well just have the new scratches as neon. It shows up that bad. So just something to think about. Like I said, it's burned me before. Hopefully that'll help somebody. Okay, I think that went pretty good. So we got this hole over here. This one actually ended up a little messier than this one over here. But what we did, we started with a 1/8 drill bit, and then from there went to 3/8. A lot of guys will go and do these, I think, to a 1/2 inch. Talking with KSD Customs, they said since this is just an 89 Softail and it's only got the 7 wires per side, should be good with just 3/8. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I was doing the drilling, kind of did the old, redneck method of wallering the hole out a little bit by moving the drill. Probably not the safest thing in the world, but it got the job done. I tested it. The wire harness is going to go through there relatively easy, but now what we need to do is take a file and a Dremel and all that good stuff and just, clean out these holes a little bit, because you don't want that there, because that will eat into that wire jacketing. I think we're good to go. I think the Dremel cleaned this out pretty good. Also off camera, I did use the file just a little bit to smooth this out. So we're going to take this extended wire harness, or the one that we're going to use to extend it. It's got, you can see it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just the 7 wires, which is on this. Now, if you're doing this on like a bagger or something newer that's got, a lot more gizmos up on the bars, doing a 3/8 hole is probably not going to work. You're going to probably have to go a little bit bigger. But let's see what I get on this one. Oh yeah, that's going in relatively smooth. Look at that, it's pushing right on in. So I think this is going to work, and of course once I get something attached to this to pull it through in the end, it's going to work great. And then coming back out pretty smooth. So I think we got a winner here, folks. So now we're going to start drilling on the bottom down here. Now what I think we're going to do here is these are going to be tough holes to start. I will go ahead and say that. But I think we're going to do 3 holes. So start with one in the middle, do the same size as we did up there at the top. And then when we're done, we'll just kind of elongate it. So what we want is just like one big oval. I'm sure it's not going to look as clean as a factory doing it, but just good enough so we can pull these harnesses through. Okay, this is like surgery. I won't even say how long it took me to get these holes started. So we got our bars all drilled, and that went pretty smooth, which actually kind of scares me a little bit. But there's 2 things we did here to get these suckers ready to extend our harnesses. So you can see we got these laid out here, and I did a few things off camera. Number one, I got these all ready to go with all the, the exposed wire and all that. But if you notice, I've got them kind of staggered a little bit, and the reason is that'll help this go through the bar openings a little bit better. If you put all these and you stack them all up, like if you just cut them right there, and you solder them in the same spots, you're going to have kind of a big spot in the wire that might not fit through your opening. So I think we're going to be okay. Just wanted to do this as a precaution, but just wanted to show why I'm doing it that way. Another thing, these are actually now shorter, and the reason they're shorter, well, number one, I have enough wire on the harness that I bought to reach where I need to. I got plenty of wiring. I know that for sure. But where I was before, the way these were, is basically where I would be doing my soldering and where I would be doing my heat shrink is right at the bottom of the bars where they'd be exiting. Now, that would be perfectly fine. They're going to be sealed up. They're going to have loom on them and all that. But what I wanted is I wanted to make sure that my solders and all that were inside the bars. No reason other than looks. I'm just trying to go for details. That way when you look at the bottom of the handlebars where they meet the risers, all you see is just this solid jacketing coming out. Now, staggering these wires like this for soldering it's a little bit extra work, but it's not too bad. If you've ever ran these wires through bars, anything to improve that process is good. We got our solders done on this, and you can see everything's staggered. So let's see if we can slide this jacketing up. Is it possible? Because I can loom over this if I need to. I just don't know how far it's going to let me go. There's a little. And there we are. Look at that. All the way up. So now we're going to take some of this loom material, and I'll be using this on the rest of the bike just to kind of connect these together. I don't want to put too much on it because this has got to get through these bars. So that works, and this is the spot again I was talking about where this is where it would have been exiting. I would prefer this to be in the bar. It's completely fine. It's going to look good even if it did exit, but it just kind of helps it. That way we've got, a spot down here that's just perfectly smooth. All for looks, but this one's ready to go. So now it's the fun time of getting these wires through the bars. So if you're going to be doing this and you've never done it before, if you go to the interwebs, there's countless opinions out there on how to do this. I'm sure every single one of them work perfectly fine. It's just whatever works for you. For me, what I do is I actually use, this is from a string trimmer or weed eater. Just something I've always used that seems to work. And also, you can also use this stuff to check your length you need for a clutch cable, throttle cables, brake line, that sort of thing. So, and when you're done with that, you can go outside and you can trim your yard. But what we're going to do is we're going to use this to kind of fish it through. It's kind of a push-pull. You don't want to just pull with this because this is taped here, but you could always, disconnect it up here. So pull here, push here, feed it through. If you have a problem, if it binds up, worst case, you pull it out gently, of course, and start over. Now, when you're trying to get this part through the bar, for me, this is why I like this string trimmer line, is because usually I can just kind of push it through and it gets all the way down here, and then I can use either needle nose or a screwdriver or something to just kind of pop this out. If you're not able to do that, especially if you've got like Z-bars, it's got those impossible bends on it. What I've done before is taken some fishing line and tie like a nut on the end of it, drop it down in there, and then just kind of, turn your bars however you need to drop it down through, and that'll work. So you use the fishing line to pull this through, and then you use this to pull the wires through. But enough yakking. Let's see if this is going to work, because I do know that I did some, these are rather small holes to be doing this. I really hope I don't have to re-drill. That would not be cool. Now what's cool, you can see down here, I've already got the end of the wire coming through. So that's good. So that means now when I get to this harder part, I won't have to worry about the line coming out, because I've got plenty of freaking wire on this harness. This is going great. But I haven't gotten to the tough spot yet. You see we got our insulation down there. Now I'm starting to get to where I soldered. You can see I've got this junction right there, and you can kind of feel this. So this might be a little temperamental. Is it going to go? Yes, it is, I believe. There it is. And I'm not even using any kind of lubricant. Some people will take like Windex. I'm sure there's some other things you can. I've even heard of wired lubricant. I don't even know what that is. But depending on your situation, now if you're doing this on a bagger and you've got a bajillion wires on each side and you've got, 90-degree bends and stuff, it's going to be complicated. So you need everything you can. But we are done on this side. And just like that. And then all I'll do is take these switch housings and just kind of temporarily attach them there, and we'll get to the other side. Okay. One switch housing wired and done. Let's see if we can do this one more time. All right. And you can see this is giving me a little more fits down here. That's just because you got this other harness in the way. It's kind of to be expected. All right. Well, that went about as smooth as possible. I was actually expecting to have some problems, and it went right in, so that's good. This is what I was talking about, just to kind of emphasize how this looks now. You can see that. That's basically what you're going to see is about maybe an inch, inch and a half exposed. Just wanted to make sure I didn't have anything that looked kind of funky coming through here. Again, just the details, so pretty happy with that. And then as far as getting it wired on the bike, we have plenty of wiring left, so that's not going to be a problem. The cool thing is I'm actually going to have a lot I'll cut off that I can use for, I don't know, heck, I could probably use them to extend the wiring on another set of bars in the future. But we got this part done, so these are now ready to go on the bike. Pull this guy off so we can replace our clutch cable. All right, good. I was sweating a couple of those. Don't need any strip bolts, especially on the transmission. Hope my little cardboard works. I have drained the transmission. Oh, good. Very minimal leakage, that is. Fish this guy out of here. Well, right away I noticed when I pulled this out that our giant snap ring, the one that's in here, is not even down in the groove like it's supposed to. It's actually below the groove. So somebody installed it and they pushed it too far down. Now, if you've never dealt with these before, these things, unless you have a giant snap ring puller, which I don't think this is going to work that great, these can be a pain. I've done these before just with screwdrivers, so it can be a challenge, but we'll get it. I can do this with this cheap Harbor Freight snap ring puller. Just don't want it flying up and getting in my face. There. Woo, got it. The cheap Harbor Freight tool. That is a heck of a snap ring if you've ever had to deal with it. I should have loosened this guy while it was still on the bike. Oh, good. Perfect. It wasn't over tight. Oh, there goes the ball bearings. Really not much to replacing these clutch cables. It's just getting that snap ring out. There's the old clutch cable. So we'll do a little cleanup on this guy right here. Also, we're going to clean up all our parts, get them ready to go back in, and then we'll install the new cable. So, already got this started. If you ever have problems getting this clutch cable started in these housings, best thing to do, at least for me, is take this part and just lightly put it in the vise. You know, wrap a rag around it. That's what I did, and it kind of helps because they can be pretty temperamental to get them started. These 3 ball bearings, I like to put just a little grease. Helps them, lubricates them, but it also helps them stay put. If you've ever thought about running an easy pull clutch, you'll see advertisements for them. All they are is just like a little arm that kind of adds leverage. This is exactly where it mounts right here. So if you've ever considered doing it, this is where you'll install it. I have used them before on 2 different bikes, and they are, in my opinion, they are well worth it, depending on your situation, especially if you have a very heavy clutch, which I did on one bike. I'd say it'd probably be helpful too for somebody that's got maybe weaker hands, arthritis, something like that. Ah, did I get it? Yes, I did. There we are. This is another one of these moments where I wish I had a table lift. Just saying. Here's a quick look at these bushings, the solid mount bushings we're going to run for the risers. In case you've never seen them before, all they are is basically like a spacer. And again, they're super cheap if you want to run these. Of course, they are not going to be helpful for vibrations. Just know that going into it. But they sure do help keep things stable. And just my useless opinion on the matter, I do not like to take any of these components, whether it be risers, top clamp bolts, whatever, for the handlebars, especially when you're changing everything like we did here. I don't like to go in and torque it all down until I'm completely finished. And then I'll go in and pull each bolt one at a time, Loctite it, and torque it down. Because you just never know. Sometimes you'll end up taking all this stuff back off. It happens. And just like magic, we got our bars on. Actually, I had somebody help me. They didn't want to be on camera. But you didn't miss a whole lot. So here's where our wires come out. You can see down here, that's the only spot up above the clamp here, above the triple tree clamp, that you're going to see wiring. That is pretty cool. And of course, for our wires, we've got, my goodness, we've got plenty of wires. We've almost got too much to work with. So definitely going to have some excess that we can reuse on something else. And our top clamp looks really great on here. I'm pretty happy with that. You see we got our fresh bolts in there, which really dressed it up. Before, these were all just rusted, so that looks much nicer. And you know, this is rattle can. You know, this is a rattle can top piece, so it can chip easy, it can flake and all that, as long as you know that going into it. But you know what, that stuff can always be replaced or repainted pretty easily. Quick ADD moment, and we're going to get right back on the handlebars, I promise. So something I worked on the other night, because quite frankly, I don't film every single thing I do on these bikes because it would just take way too long. If you saw in some earlier episodes, these guys right here on the trees, these threads right in here were completely shot. Somebody had some, they were turn signals, but quite frankly, they were just tiny little, almost like marker lights. They actually looked pretty neat, but they were they were junky. They were just a really super cheap product. And when I went to take the wrench to them and just remove them, they just fell out of my hands and all the threads in here were shot. It's quite frustrating because, you know, it kind of ruins this top clamp a little bit. But somebody suggested, is it helicoil, I don't know how you say it. I completely forgot about using that. Fix these up. Now we got threads that work. We got bolts in here, and you can see these are actually factory HD bolts I pulled off of. Yes, they are the Torx bits that I can't stand, but I was able to reuse them. I think they look pretty good up here, but most importantly, hopefully we extended the life of these trees just a little bit more. Now we're going to take our wire harnesses here from our switch housings that we ran through the bar and solder them and heat shrink them up here to these connectors to attach them to the rest of the bike. Now, there is a couple of different ways you can do this. What most people would say is the correct way, or the way that I would prefer to do this, is to go in here. You can actually de-pin each one of these. There are ways to do it, and you can pull these out, and then you can actually solder these, you know, once you get your measurements and all that up on your workbench or whatever. The reason why that's such a good idea is, if you look, you got to think about this. Your wires are actually going down through the top of the triple tree right there. So if you were to pull these connectors out and solder them, you're not going to be able to get your connector down through here. So that means once you wire these internal on these bars, and if you run them down through the triple tree, which is what I'm going to do because it looks so great, just know that the only way you're going to get your bars off is either by de-pinning or just cutting them. Now for me, I am going to solder them right here. The reason is, I think I said it before, is these connectors are so freaking old. I don't want to do anything to mess them up. And also, quite frankly, I can get to this spot pretty easy to solder it, so it makes it pretty easy for me. And as far as where you want to cut these and how much slack you want to have, just turn your bars to where it's got them stretched the furthest. So since both of these harnesses are going to be on this side, I've got the bars turned fully to the left, and I'll just kind of use this as my guide. Now you don't want to just pull it super tight. Give yourself a little bit of slack. The reason is, in case you need to get these bars off to maybe work on the front end in the future or something like that, if you have these so flippin' tight, because remember, they're going up through the trees here, you may not even be able to remove the bars to even set them down on the tank without cutting or de-pinning your wires. So don't set yourself up for a headache. For me, I like to just give myself a little bit of slack in here, and then you can just tuck it up underneath the gas tank. For my crude setup here, I've just got some boards stacked up on a stool, and then just a piece of steel. Always a way. Just got to get creative. Earlier I mentioned about putting your bars up on your gas tank if you need to get to the front end. When you do that, you can also remove your clutch and your brake controls. And then put some towels down on your tank. Don't just throw them on the paint. That's what I meant. So we're going to go ahead and loom just a little bit of this real quick. This is the material I'll be using on the whole bike. I've used this on other bikes on the channel. This stuff actually works really good. So I picked this stuff up on Amazon, of course. It was like maybe, I think, $9 or $10. And it comes with 5 rolls. This is the 3rd roll, and this is the 3rd bike. So not too bad. It goes on pretty easy. As you can see, it's very flexible. It's very sticky, so it sticks like you want it. And I've even tested it on I took about 6 or 7 wires together, wrapped them, put it in the sink overnight, full of water, and then let it dry out completely, and it was still perfectly fine. So it didn't lose any of its stickiness, even being soaked in water. Now, whether or not it holds up to time, that I don't know. You can see, so that'll plug in there. I do have some excess, but all I'll do is fold it up somewhere like that. You know, do my best to, if I can zip tie it up over the frame, something like that. But for the most part, the gas tank's going to hold it in there. Now you've got a little bit of extra. You need to pull these bars off, and it looks much cleaner. It looks a little bit better than all them ugly butt connectors and wires hanging out. So we'll start on the next one and get it done, and this should look pretty good. I threw the battery in real quick to just give us a little check here to test our wiring. Probably should have done this before I loomed that one side. I think we'll be all right. All right, for the left side, all I'm concerned about is headlight. So it is on low, and low is not on because, well, low beams burn out, something I need to fix. Turn it on high. Ooh, we got something on the dash indicator, and we got high beam. So that works for that side. And then for the right side, all I'm concerned about is the on-off switch and the start button. Let's see, I'm just going to tap the starter. Just give it a little love tap here. We are good to go. Our wiring should be good. All right, now I can loom up this side. Oh, and these wires right here hanging out, this is actually for the headlight. I did cut those, obviously, for just to make it easier to route things up here. So my little test I just did, I just had them twisted together. Those will be fixed later. Easy enough to fix. I also mentioned whenever I was doing the test just a moment ago, that all I need is headlight and on-off switch and start button. The horn doesn't work. I've mentioned before, I think, in other episodes. And I'm not putting the signals on. But the wiring is there for them. So somebody could easily hook up a horn. The connector's still there. It's going to be tucked up under the gas tank. So it's still usable, which is cool. Maybe one of these days I'll do a bike where I just do the bare basics on wiring. Maybe that'll be. Got another project coming up after this one. I might just do that. Since these wires right here come off of these two connectors for handlebar wiring, I'm going to go ahead and loom these together. This is kind of tough to get to, but then we'll get back on the bars. There, and that'll now be ready for looming this entire harness. And our bar wiring is now complete, looking pretty good. You can see there's the excess I talked about right there. It looks kind of weird, but the tank will cover that up, and that way if anybody needs to pull that out, they can. But this gives us just enough wire that we need for the bars to function, which is great. Still need to get our headlight wiring done right here and run it this way, as well as our throttle and idle cable. So this might move just a little bit, but we'll deal with that when we mount the tank. Also, got me a little spot here to zip tie the wire that we ran underneath here. That'll join the main harness. So overall, I would say that's quite the improvement. So I was going to move on to mounting our clutch cable next up to the clutch lever on the bars, and kind of noticed a problem. So first of all, everything mounted down here good to the transmission. I actually went back to the video evidence, which I guess it's kind of good that I've got video evidence to check it. And everything mounted up fine. To be honest, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of hard to mount it wrong. It really only goes one way. Then what you do is you go here and you back this off all the way on your clutch adjustment. I'm sure most of you know this, but if you don't, what you want to do is make sure there's no threads exposed. So you're basically closing this up. And what you're doing is you're giving yourself plenty of free play in the clutch cable itself to get the lever mounted on it. Well, for those of you that know, this is not good. This is not what you want. This is like what, maybe a 16th to an 8th of free play, and that is no good, and that's not going to work. So I'm not sure if they sent me the wrong cable, if the cable itself is just bad. I have no idea, but we're not going to let this slow us down. I'm going to pull this off later by myself off camera and just kind of compare the two, and I guess we're just going to have to order another cable. I don't know if I can return this one since I've already mounted it, which is unfortunate, but you know what? It's just something to learn for the future, right? For now on, I'll know to check this stuff on cables. The good news is I didn't put any transmission fluid in it, so I don't have to worry about that. But we'll move on to other stuff and take care of this later. Speaking of cables, I probably should have mounted these before I put the carb on. Now it's already hung up. Get out of there. There. Oh, I got that one. Did I? I did. This guy ran through. Sort of on. Sort of. Oh, did I just get it? I think I did. I did. How about that? And we got both of our cables. Pretty good. So I didn't even think about having a tall enough tripod to film, because not only is the bike on the jack, but then you got these 14-inch bars. So if you see the screen shaking a little bit, it's not necessarily because you've been drinking. It's because this thing's pretty sensitive right now. You like these slick little grips right here. Got these from Lowbrow. Made in the US for $19. Pretty cool. Oh boy, these things is not one of my favorite activities to do. Okay, got it sort of started. Guess we can go ahead and open up this side. Oh yeah, these bars look great. Oh, good grief. Come on. Get off of there. Thank you. I actually did have to reroute these, so if you're routing stuff like this, you know, make sure it's going where you want it to go, because I didn't have it right. But that's fine. It happens. These controls are always just so bulky and clunky to get together. They work great when you get them all together, but dang. We'll just hand tighten all this for now. And I said this before on the bars when I mounted them. I like to leave all this stuff just snug or hand tight. When you get it all on the ground, you can adjust your bars. You can pull them, forward, back, whatever. You can adjust all this. It's just personal preference. Don't go cranking on everything just yet until you're pretty sure it's where you need to be. Well, that's about as far as we can get on the bars for now. Still need to get our brake line going, of course, and then also our goofy clutch cable that's, not correct or whatever. But I'm starting to like these bars. I think now that I got them on here and starting to mount stuff on, they're growing on me even more, which is really, really good. And then I'll get the lever and the grip on over here once we do the clutch cable. That won't be a big deal. Probably do both of those at the same time. And I do think our throttle cable here is just about the right length. I think it came out pretty darn good. It's got a little bit of a curve out there, but that's fine. Got it rounded down through there. Oh, and as a plus, our throttle, if you remembered when we first drove this bike, it didn't even have a throttle that worked. It was sticking so bad. But now, perfectly nice. Butter smooth. That's exactly what we want. Well, I figured out our clutch cable problem pretty quick, and I got to be honest, I'm not sure what my major malfunction was. All I had to do was just back it off at the dang clutch basket. I do have to admit, I have installed countless clutch cables over the years, so I'm not really sure what I was thinking, to be honest. Maybe I wasn't thinking. That's probably what it is, more likely. See, goes right in, just like it's supposed to, with plenty of slack. But I will take the easy solution all day long on stuff like that. Even when it's my own doing. I suppose you do enough work on stuff like this, it's bound to happen. It's been so long since I've worked on these older style switch housings like this. I think they were like 94 or 95 and down. They just seem to work better. They're a little more... I don't know, they just seem a little more stout. They just line up better. Just my opinion, though. So clutch adjustment down here at the basket is pretty dang simple. First thing, you want to take your adjuster that's on the cable. You want to loosen that up as much as possible or put all the slack in it that you can. Then there's a nut right here on the outside of this push rod that goes in the center. Break that nut loose. Of course, mine's already broke loose because I had to mess with it earlier. And then you want to take this push rod and you just want to go all the way in with it, just to where all the slack is taken out. Okay, just like right there. Then you want to back it off about a half to a full turn. We'll go about 3/4. Just take your jam nut, if you can do this without messing up your adjustment, and just tighten it up. Just like that. And after your adjustments at the clutch basket, just adjust your cable. You want to take up all the slack until you have about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch gap up here, or free play I should say, where this cable meets the clutch perch. That's all it takes. This is nice, this cable, nice and smooth. Well, changing a headlight bulb is not really film worthy, but what I do like is there is a little, I can get it out of here, tiny bulb up here because there is a blue indicator up on top of this headlight housing for high beam. I think that is super cool, and I'm hoping it's just this little $1.99 cheap bulb that's burnt out. For some reason, it's driving me nuts to get this working. I just think it'd be neat. Let's do our little check here. And we got low beam. That's good. That means our new bulb did the trick. I'll switch her to high. Okay, we got an indicator on the dash. We've got high beam. And we've got a little light. Oh, some of the blue's missing off of it, but still pretty freaking cool. So that's good news. That means everything that we need now to function with the switches works, including high and low beams. That's great news. Well, guys and gals, we're going to call this episode a wrap right here. Now, I was about to start working on our wiring loom over there and clean it up because it's really not something that's going to take me a whole long time. And then I noticed something. Let me show you what happened after I was messing around with a high-low beam on camera just a moment ago. I noticed that I had a loose connection, and this wire, I think it was this one right here. I call them a jumper wire. It goes from this switch or this connector over to this connector right there. I was getting some intermittent flashing on the high beam, and I'm like, well, that's got to be a loose connection. And so I started tapping around, and I figured out it was this guy right here. And what had happened was is the pin that's on the end of this little guy right here actually was just sliding out on its own. Also, this wire had a cut in it for some reason. So since I was able to pull the pin out, I pulled the pin out, put some heat shrink on it, fixed that problem, and then I bent out the little notch, I guess for lack of better words, the little notch that locks it in. Once I bent that out, it locked in place, so easy fix. The reason I'm saying this is I need to make sure I give myself plenty of time on this wire loom again. I checked it once. I'm going to go over it again. I didn't want to just rush and hurry up on it, so I'm going to give myself a couple of days on it, because what I don't want to do is loom it all up and then have some other problems. But I think we can get it squared away. I think we're getting down to kind of like the final little problems on it, and just didn't want to have something kind of come back to bite me later. But with the exception of my momentary lapse of reason on the clutch cable, I think the bars turned out pretty darn good. Look over here on the side, you can see the cables. It's got a little, they're sticking out a little bit, but I think it's enough free play to be set up pretty darn good. They're not too tight. I don't think they're too loose. You can turn the bars all the way side to side with no problems, and that's really what you want. But pretty happy with that, how it turned out. Also over here, just where we're routing everything through here, you see we got our clutch cable running up through there. Of course, our wiring, can't argue with how the wiring turned out. But overall, liking the bars. I will admit, being a short guy myself, these are maybe a little on the high side for me possibly, but I still dig them. I think they look really good. I think somebody's going to be pretty happy with these things. Well, I think I'm pretty dang thrilled with how this bike's starting to take shape, especially getting these bars on it. And quite frankly, the bike as a whole doesn't even look the same, which is really what we've been going for. Now, of course, we've got some more content to come on this bike. Like I said, we've got to get in and finish up that wiring and get it all loomed up. And from there, we're going to start on the wheels. We got to get the bearings packed, and of course, get the wheels cleaned up. Then we can start putting them back on the bike. So if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and hit that button and you'll catch those future episodes. And as always, I thank you guys so much for watching. We'll chat with you next time.